She never thought one wrong night could destroy everything she had fought so hard to build. A single hotel bar, a few too many drinks, and one mistaken door was all it took to change Ava Sinclair's life forever. Because when she opened her eyes the next morning, she wasn't in her small, cluttered apartment. She wasn't wrapped in the safety of her own sheets. She was in the penthouse of the most feared man in New York City. And beside her, sleeping like a predator, waiting for the perfect strike, was him, Damien Lancaster, the ruthless billionaire, the man who could buy politicians, topple empires, and crush anyone who dared cross his path. His name alone made Wall Street tremble. His reputation was ice-cold, his power untouchable. And now, somehow, Ava Sinclair, a struggling fashion designer drowning in debt, had woken up in his bed. Her heart pounded as she realized what this meant. Not just the humiliation, not just the shame, but the danger. Because men like Damien Lancaster didn't make mistakes. And if she was here, then maybe this was never an accident at all. But why her? Why Ava? A nobody. A woman who had nothing to offer a man like him. Or so she thought. The questions spiraled through her mind as his steel-grey eyes opened and locked on hers. The air between them froze. And in that moment, she understood one thing. This wasn't the beginning of a love story. This was the beginning of a war. A war between truth and lies, between power and vulnerability, between a billionaire who refused to lose and a woman who refused to be owned. But as fate would have it, this war would become something darker. Because hidden beneath contracts and secrets, betrayal and bloodlines, there was something neither of them expected. A love so dangerous, so forbidden, that it could either destroy them or save them. And the question remains, can love grow in the shadows of deceit? Or is this romance nothing more than a gilded prison? Tonight we uncover the shocking story of Ava Sinclair and Damien Lancaster, a tale of scandal, obsession, betrayal, and a passion that burned even in the darkest corners of the human heart. But the truth behind their story is much darker than anyone ever imagined. Ava Sinclair was never meant to walk into the world of billionaires. She was born into struggle, the kind of life where dreams were luxuries and survival was the only currency that mattered. Her father had left when she was barely a child, leaving her mother to raise her alone in a tiny apartment on the edge of Brooklyn. Rent was always late, bills piled up like a mountain, and Ava learned early on that if she wanted anything in life, she would have to fight for it. She dreamed of designing clothes, fabrics, patterns, the way silk could flow like water or velvet could command attention. These were the things that made her feel alive. But dreams don't pay electricity bills. So Ava worked late nights in cafes, stitched dresses for pennies, and prayed for just one chance to be seen. Every rejection letter from fashion houses cut her deeper. Not enough experience. Your designs are too bold. We're not taking risks right now. Still, she didn't give up, because she couldn't. And yet, on the night she stumbled into Damien Lancaster's bed, her world shifted from fragile hope to dangerous chaos, because Damien was everything she wasn't, born into wealth, groomed in power, and feared by everyone who spoke his name. Damien Lancaster didn't just run companies, he ran empires. His family name alone could silence a boardroom. He was the man who turned struggling corporations into gold, but also the man who destroyed anyone who resisted him. To the public, he was untouchable. To his enemies, he was merciless. And to Ava, he was a storm she never asked to walk into. Rumors swirled about him. Whispered secrets that his first fiancée had died mysteriously, that every woman he touched disappeared from the public eye. Some said he was cursed. Others believed he was simply cruel. But what everyone agreed on was this: Damien Lancaster did not love. He owned. And now, Ava Sinclair, the girl who wanted nothing more than to make dresses, had become the newest name on his list. But here's the part no one else knew. Damien had been watching her long before that night. Her designs, her persistence, her refusal to bow even when life tried to break her. To him, Ava was not an accident. She was a test, a weakness he swore he would never allow himself. And yet, the moment she stepped into his world, Damien Lancaster knew one terrifying truth. If he couldn't control her, she might be the one person who could destroy him. The morning light poured through the penthouse windows like molten gold, but to Ava Sinclair it felt like the cold glare of judgment. Her head throbbed, her body trembled, and as she clutched the sheets tighter against her chest, she realized the horrifying truth. She wasn't alone. Damien Lancaster lay beside her, his breathing deep, his body stretched across the silk sheets with a kind of raw dominance that stole the air from her lungs. Every detail about him was sharp and deliberate. The muscles carved like stone, the jaw locked in perfect power, the aura of a man who never asked, only took. Ava's pulse skyrocketed. This couldn't be real. She wasn't supposed to be here. The last thing she remembered was the hotel bar, a glass of whiskey she probably shouldn't have accepted, laughter that blurred into dizziness. And now, this. Her fingers dug into the fabric, her chest heaving as she whispered to herself, "What have I done?" But before she could move, his eyes opened. Steel grey, unforgiving, like a predator catching its prey. The silence between them was suffocating. And then his voice, low, dangerous, a growl that seemed to echo in her bones. "What the hell are you doing here?" The words sliced through her like a knife. She stumbled over her breath, her lips trembling. I don't know. I don't remember." He sat up, towering over her, every inch of him power and fury. "You expect me to believe that?" Ava's heart slammed against her ribs. "There must have been a mistake. I swear I didn't mean—" But Damien's chuckle was razor-sharp, humorless. How convenient. One drink, one wrong room, and suddenly you end up in my bed. Do you think I've never seen this game before? Her cheeks burned with humiliation. "I'm not playing any game." "Save it," he snapped, stepping closer, the shadows clinging to him like armor. "Women have tried this before. You think a little act of innocence will fool me?" Her anger rose to meet his suspicion. She stood, clutching the sheet around her, her voice shaking but fierce. "I don't need anything from you. Not your money, not your power, not this." For the first time, his gaze flickered, just for a second, as if something in her words pierced through the ice. But then the wall came back, harder than before. "You expect me to believe that?" he asked coldly. Ava's jaw tightened. "I don't care what you believe. I just want to leave." She grabbed her crumpled dress from the floor, fumbling toward the door. But before her hand could turn the knob, his voice cut through the room again, quieter this time, almost chilling in its calm. "I don't like games, Ava." She froze. Her breath caught. Slowly, she turned back. "How do you know my name?" Damien leaned against the wall, arms folded, a smirk tugging at his lips. "That's right," he murmured. "I know exactly who you are. And if you think you just ended up in my bed by accident, you're already in more danger than you realize." Her blood ran cold. Because in that moment, Ava Sinclair understood one terrifying truth. This wasn't fate. This wasn't chance. This was a trap, and she had already stepped inside it. The world moved faster than Ava could breathe. One morning, she was a struggling designer. By nightfall, she was the center of a scandal plastered across every gossip site in New York. Her face, her walk of shame from the billionaire's penthouse, her name tied to Damien Lancaster in headlines dripping with poison, gold digger or future Mrs. Lancaster. And then, just when she thought her career was crumbling, Damien did the unthinkable. He claimed her, not as a mistake, not as a fling, but as his fiancée. The ballroom gasped. Cameras exploded. The city froze. And Ava, breathless, stunned, furious, heard his whisper in her ear, "Play along, or you won't survive this." Her life wasn't hers anymore. She had been pushed onto a stage she never auditioned for, trapped in a role she couldn't refuse, because Damien Lancaster wasn't asking. He was dictating. At first it was just an arrangement, a contract to protect reputations, to silence the wolves of the press, to shield her designs from destruction. But then something happened. The nausea, the fainting, the hospital lights, the doctor's voice echoing like thunder. "You're pregnant." Her hands shook as the words sank in. Pregnant. With Damien's child. The floor disappeared beneath her. This wasn't just a contract anymore. This was life. This was blood. And yet, when she looked at Damien, she saw no shock, no disbelief, only silence. Because he already knew. Her heart splintered. He had known before she did. He had planned, calculated, maneuvered, and she had walked right into it. "Why didn't you tell me?" she demanded, her voice breaking. Damien's gaze was unreadable, his tone low, almost too calm. "Because knowledge can be dangerous, and right now you're already a target." His words only cut deeper. A target. For what? For whom? And that's when he told her the truth. Years ago, his first fiancée had been murdered. Not an accident, not a twist of fate, a brutal message carved in blood. And every woman he ever cared for became a target. Now it was Ava. And worse, the life growing inside her. The shadows around Damien began to make sense. His coldness, his distance, his obsession with control. It wasn't cruelty alone. It was fear. Fear that love was a weakness. Fear that caring meant death. But Ava wasn't sure which was more dangerous. The enemies watching from the dark, or the man standing right in front of her, holding every piece of her shattered future in his hands. Her voice trembled as she whispered the question neither of them dared to face. "Are we going to destroy each other, or save each other?" The war inside Damien Lancaster's world finally erupted. Enemies circled, whispers turned into gunfire, and Ava Sinclair, once an ordinary woman, stood at the center of it all. His brother Elias had played the final card. Betrayal, abduction, a cruel plan to break Damien once and for all. Ava was the bait, and the child she carried was the prize. But Damien was not a man who surrendered what belonged to him. The night burned with explosions. Shadows cracked with bullets. And when he found her, bound, terrified, yet unbroken, his grey eyes were no longer ice. They were fire. He pulled her into his arms, whispering only one promise. "Never again. No one takes you from me." And then, without hesitation, he turned his fury on Elias. Brother against brother, blood against blood. The Empire trembled as Damien proved the truth everyone feared. When pushed to the edge, he wasn't just ruthless. He was unstoppable. But victory came at a cost. When the dust settled, Ava looked at him. This man who had saved her, destroyed for her, killed for her. And she felt the weight of the question she had carried from the beginning. Was this love or captivity? He knelt before her, the world watching, a diamond ring glittering in his hand. His voice was raw, stripped of the icy armor. "I don't do love," he confessed. "But for you, I would burn the world down." The crowd gasped. Cameras flashed. History froze in that moment. Ava's heart thundered. Every dream, every fear, every ounce of fire inside her collided in one truth. She could not belong to a man who saw love as possession. And yet, she could not deny the pull that bound her to him. Her trembling fingers closed the ring box. "I don't belong to you," she whispered. But his answer was darker, sharper, a vow that chilled her soul. "You already do. You just don't realize it yet." She turned. She walked away. And the city roared around her. Ava Sinclair, no longer just the girl who stumbled into a billionaire's bed, no longer just the pawn in his empire, disappeared into the night with her choice unspoken, her fate unfinished. Because the truth was this: obsession never ends. And with a man like Damien Lancaster, there is no final chapter. Only the next move in a game that has no exit. So was this love, or a prison, a curse, or a salvation? The answer remains hidden in the shadows. And if you want to know whether Ava and Damien ever escaped the darkness, or if it consumed them completely, then stay with us, because their story isn't over. If this story has kept you on the edge of your seat, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps these stories alive. And who knows, maybe the next chapter of Ava and Damien's dangerous love will be the one that finally reveals the truth.